Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast. I am your host, Sharifah Hardie, and I have a very interesting show for you today. We're going to discuss COVID-19. We're going to discuss meditation. We're going to discuss tapping. There's so much that we're going to discuss today. So I invite you to go ahead and share this show because friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah Videocast. And our guest today, you may have seen before. He was also on our morning show, the Roundtable Talk Show, where we have such a great time and we learned a lot. So we have Bob with us here today. Mr. Robert Bob Schmidt is going to discuss keeping your emotional balance during and after COVID-19, as well as his book that I've been reading through, Disaster Mental Health Community Planning, and a manual for trauma-informed collaboration. Good afternoon, Bob. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Sandy Hook, Connecticut.
Sandy Hook. So you're down in Sandy Hook, and you work with or been working with some of the families of the Sandy Hook catastrophe, correct?
Yes, I have. Yeah. Still, many people are still affected even today. Trauma doesn't go away easily, and people need the right kind of therapy. So in myself getting the training that I needed to deal with trauma, I learned a lot of things along the way. And all of these things are wellness activities that are in the book, but I think I wanted to share them with as many people as possible because COVID-19 is affecting all of us. Every single one of us, either the threat for the elderly, the threat of the coronavirus, because we don't have a reliable cure yet. And for the strong and the healthy, being locked in and pent up and with, sometimes you with your family, you may love your family, but sometimes you get tired of them and they get tired of you and you get on each other's cases, or you just want to get away and be with your friends. And so a lot of people are stressed out. In fact, the last thing I heard was 33% of the people in our country are suffering from either anxiety or depression due to the impact of the COVID-19. So I'd like to share some of the things. And you said it's okay, you're going to participate with me, right?
Absolutely. I'm a little nervous, I'll tell you that, Bob, but I'm here. I'm willing to participate and learn.
Okay. First thing I'd like to talk about is bilateral sound healing. And bilateral sound healing is a cheap way, a shortcut to meditation. Now, Sharifah shared with me that you meditate. I've been meditating since the 1970s, and I've learned more about other types of meditation, but I found teaching it to my clients, sometimes they just need something right away. And it takes a while to get good at meditation where it totally calms you down. So I found bilateral sound healing, which was created by David Grand, who is a trauma therapist from New York. He was treating survivors of 9/11. And he found that the EMDR, those of you who might be familiar with EMDR, the therapist waves hands back and forth like this for the eye movement part. He found some people didn't like it, so he came up with brain spotting, which was a variation and it highly effective. But he also uses something to get that stimulation from left to right, music and nature sounds. So he'll have a recording. Here's some of his CDs. He has 8 of them. The recording will go from your left ear to your right ear and back again. Now, you have to have earbuds or headphones, and you want to keep the volume low. And what happens, something goes on in your brain that calms it down. So I'm going to bring a picture up of our brain, because people sometimes say, how come I get so angry? How come, I usually I'm in control.
Okay, Bob, I just want to ask a question. We're going to take a
Sure.
look at this image, but I had two questions. Number one, can you
Mhm.
meditate wrong? Like, can you do it incorrectly? That's number one. And then some people say, and these are questions you might be getting ready to answer, but I just wanted to just kind of get them out there. So, can you meditate wrong? Or also, do you have, some people say you have to be in a sitting position. Some people say it's okay to lie down. Some people say you could be washing the dishes and meditate, or driving and it's meditation. But what are your thoughts?
You know, we've been taught by watching silly movies and silly TV shows that you meditate by like this and you cross your legs. And some people can do that.
Mhm.
In fact, if you're doing yoga exercises, sometimes you'll be sitting in a certain position and you'll meditate. But for most people, that's really uncomfortable. I have never crossed my legs. I don't think I can now at my age. And I don't fold my hands. I sit in a recliner
Mhm.
and I just put that seat back, my feet up. And now I'm so conditioned by that position that any chair that I get in that puts me in that, I immediately relax, which includes the dentist chair too, by the way. Because he leans it back and says, no, too far back. I want it right there, doc. Okay. And then I'm relaxed because that reminds me of meditation. So can you mess it up? No, but people worry about it that, oh, I'm supposed to be focusing on my breathing, or I'm supposed to be focused, and my mind wandered. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. Everybody's mind wanders. So the thing is not to worry about it. Just bring your mind back to whatever you were supposed to be, and don't try to be a perfectionist. Life is not perfect. Meditation is not perfect. As you might experience, sometimes a meditation might be super relaxing and you feel like you could face anything. And sometimes it just helps a little bit.
Mhm.
It's not always the same. So people, I think, sometimes put too much expectations. So thank you for asking that question.
Okay, so we'll look at the
But I
brain.
look at the brain because we don't understand why we can't think straight when we get angry or extremely worried. And really, it's because of this amygdala. It's a little almond-shaped thing. It's the primitive caveman brain. And it's designed really to protect us. However, it's not that smart. It can't think logically, but it will, when it senses danger, it will contact the hypothalamus, and that will send messages to the pituitary gland to send hormones to the body to either fight, flight, or freeze. And when that happens, the frontal lobe has no control. It overpowers the frontal lobe. So logic goes right out the window. And that's why I said, oh, I lost it. I just lost it. Yes, you lose it. You have no control. And so if you're anxious or depressed, it's the amygdala you have to work with, because the amygdala is saying things like, there's no hope, it's terrible, it's just why bother? Or the amygdala is saying, we got to do something, we got to run, we got to fight, and you're not able to think. So let's talk about the bilateral sound, putting that to work, putting in the earbuds, finding a comfortable place to sit and listening. The nature sounds are beautiful. You can have one is a thunderstorm. If you like thunderstorms, sometimes if you've been near struck by lightning, you may not like that, but it's beautiful because the rain swishes from the left to the right and the thunder is in front of you. And you close your eyes and it just creates this beautiful picture and calms the amygdala. It like sings it to sleep. Also, there's a mountain stream is one, and another one is the ocean, of course, very common one. And then he has dozens of musical arrangements from light jazz to just soft guitar, what we used to call elevator music, you know, kind of.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me bring a little bit more detail about that up, and we'll go to the next slide. You can listen to it and try it out today. So those of you who have your camera nearby and watching this, you may want to take a screenshot of this. This is what David Grand's images look like on YouTube. So when I introduce it to my clients, I say, look, it's not going to cost you any money. If you really like it, then you can go to David's website and you can download as many tunes as you want. He has 8 CDs, and you can buy CDs if you still have a CD player. But this is what it looks like. Since he's the creator of it, I don't recommend you listen to anybody else. There are some imitators.
Mhm.
So these are the steps. Find that comfortable chair or sofa, select an arrangement, sample on YouTube maybe ahead of time, or buy something from brainspotting.com. That's his website, because that's his trauma technique. Gotta have headphones or earbuds. Keep it soft, okay? You want it to be, so you almost have to struggle to listen to it. So it keeps your brain concentrating on something. Listen for 15 minutes or more. Today, I was worried about, well, if this could go wrong. What if my computer freezes? What if something goes wrong? So I put on bilateral sound. I think I was there for maybe 40 minutes. And it was nice and mellow after that. So that's bilateral sound. I'm going to show you 2 emotional freedom techniques, also known as tapping. And tapping was created back in the 80s and then refined in the 90s. And it became very popular. Ironically, Nick Ortner wrote a book called The Tapping Solution. And it came out, Nick lives in Newtown, by the way, which is Sandy Hook is part of Newtown. It came out about the same time as the Sandy Hook tragedy.
Mhm.
And people found that it was a great help for dealing with trauma when it was done with a therapist, a trained therapist. In fact, what Nick did, he was sponsoring a friend named Dr. Lori Layden, who was working in Rwanda with the survivors of the massacre there.
Mhm.
He was teaching them how to use tapping to help their fellow men. And Nick called her and said, Lori, you know, I live in Newtown. The tragedy is, she said, oh, I'll be there in 2 days. And she came and taught tapping to so many of us therapists, and also work with so many other people. So
Okay,
it's
so Bob,
amazing.
not to cut you off, but you mentioned tapping. And so for any of us and for everyone who's watching who's unfamiliar with tapping, what exactly is tapping?
I'm glad you asked. Okay, tapping is really a combination of 2 things. Ancient Eastern medicine
Mhm.
and modern Western psychology, because you're tapping on acupuncture meridians. And then you're saying some positive psychology, and the 2 blend together perfectly. If I was to say, I feel real miserable, I'm really worried, I'm scared, I don't know what I'm going to do, I would make myself more upset.
Mhm.
But by saying those things, you need to get them out, because that's what's going on in your head. But by saying those things and tapping, the amygdala calms down instead of getting more upset. So it has a way of calming you down, just like meditation. And I've done, when I was teaching at Fairfield University in the counseling program, I wanted all my students to know about this. So I did so many lessons, and I would demonstrate on a group. I'm going to demonstrate with you.
Mhm.
And I would also ask for a volunteer to do it one-on-one to show how I do it in therapy. And sometimes I would get somebody who said, well, I have a migraine headache. And I don't know if it'll help. Every time it has helped. It has helped the person. Someone who came in, I have back pain. My back is killing me today. Oh. Nick wrote a book. His second book was tapping for pain relief. So there's so many ways you can use tapping. So let me give a general demonstration. Okay.
Okay, we're going to give a general demonstration, but I always have questions before we get started. So tapping, I know we're going to give a demonstration, but does it have to be a certain speed? Do you have to tap real fast, real slow? I mean, because I'm like, I'm one of those people, if you do not give me clear and specific instructions, I just always feel like I'm doing something wrong.
Okay. You tap, it's comfortable for you.
Okay.
Now, if you're probably upset or angry, at least I know when I'm upset or angry, I tap a little faster and harder, and then I'm going to show you a shortcut for when you're really angry or, just stuck in traffic. That was it's called tap and breathe.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the spots. Why don't you do them with me? This is your karate chop. Right on that soft palm thing where if you were going to break a brick in karate, you would tap on that area. That's it.
Okay.
And then we'll be saying a setup statement 3 times. Then we go to tapping individual spots. So the first one is the beginning of the eyebrow, here or here, left or right, it doesn't matter. Then the side of the eye, then under the eye in the fleshy area, then under the nose, then under the lip, the collarbone. Then this is a silly one, you're like a monkey, under the arm, 4 inches down from the armpit, or as my wife said, it's in the middle of the bra strap. Okay.
Okay, that would make sense to me.
It makes it easier, right? You're going to measure with a ruler. And then the top of the head is the last one. It's like you're patting yourself in the head. I'm doing a good job here.
Good, Sharifah. You're being good, Sharifah. I like this one. It just calmed me though. I felt it calmed me. That was incredible.
Because you're hitting all these spots. So let's do a typical tapping exercise.
Okay.
So what I want you to do, and the people who are listening, is think of something that's bothering you today. You don't even have to tell me what it is, but think of something that's bothering you that, it's irritating. Maybe it's a special friend, so you don't have to say what it is, or a situation you dealt with, or you're worried about something. Okay. And then think, when I think about this thing, where do I feel it in my body? Most of us feel it common places: pressure on our temples, tightness in our neck, tightness in our right around our collarbone, like we're being choked, or carrying the world on our shoulders, or in our stomach. So those are the common places.
Okay, but Bob, I didn't feel it in those. I felt it in my back.
In your back. Okay.
Yes. And can I tell you why? Because I want to share. But because I've been feeling like I need more rest lately, because things have began to get so busy and pick up that I feel like I'm running. So it's my schedule and feeling like I'm taking on a lot. So when I was thinking about that, it kind of felt like it was in my back, and I just felt heavy, like that.
Weighted down by
So maybe it was my shoulders, yes, but it was more like my back.
Okay, so on your back. So if we were doing it just me and you, one-on-one, we would say, when I think about this thing, I feel it like I'm carrying this weight on my back. But for the people who are doing it with us, we're going to use general terms. Okay, so let's get started. This will do 1 round. Now, first I want you to think about it and rate it, the intensity of it. So think about the intensity of what you feel on your back from a 0 to a 10. What might that be?
Right now, I would say a 7.
A 7. Okay. Now, let's start. Even though, and you should repeat whatever I say, repeat it back. Even though
Even though
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
and I feel it in my body,
I feel it in my body.
I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
love and accept myself.
love and accept myself.
Good. Now we say it 2 more times. Even though
Even though
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
and I feel it in my body,
and I feel it in my body,
I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
love and accept myself.
love and accept myself.
Okay, last time. Even though
Even though
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
I feel it in my body,
I feel it in my body,
I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
love and accept myself.
love and accept myself.
Okay, now start with the eyebrow. I have this thing that's bothering me today.
We don't do the even though.
Nope.
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
And I feel it in my body.
and I feel it in my body,
Side of the eye.
side of
I
the eye.
have this thing that's bothering me today.
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
And I feel it in my body.
and I feel it in my body.
Under the eye.
And
I have this thing that's bothering me today.
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
And I feel it in my body.
and I feel it in my body.
Under the nose. I have this thing that's bothering me today.
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
And I feel it in my body.
and I feel it in my body.
Under the lip. I have this thing that's bothering me today.
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
And I feel it in my body.
and I feel it in my body.
Under the arm. Oh, collarbone. I have this thing that's bothering me today.
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
And I feel it in my body.
and I feel it in my body.
Now under the arm. I have this thing that's bothering me today.
I have this thing that's bothering me today,
And I feel it in my body.
and I feel it in my body.
Last one. Top of the head. I have this thing that's bothering me today.
I
And I
have this,
feel it in my body.
I have this thing that's bothering me today, and I feel it in my body.
Now just put your arms down. Take a deep breath and hold it in for a few seconds. And let it out slowly like you're blowing up a balloon. Now just focus on your body, what you're feeling, what you're sensing. You said the intensity was a 7 when you started. Is it still a 7?
No,
Where did it go?
I would say like a 3 or 4.
Wow, that's great. You're good. You
Mm,
are good. Now, what I would do with a client, or what I would recommend you do at home, is continue doing it till you have it down to a 2 or a 3,
mhm.
for sure. And because 2 or 3 is reasonable, we deal with stress. There's no such thing as a stressless life. So once you tap it down, so you would keep doing that until you get it down to a reasonable level. And then sometimes other aspects pop up, like you may say, maybe you were thinking about all these things that you have to do and the pressure and the deadlines and stuff. And maybe you're thinking, you know what? What's really bothering me is this one thing. I have to do the show with Bob Schmidt today. And that's and so then you tap, I have to do with this, but I don't know what he's going to do.
I gotta talk to Bob. Ah! Okay, I'm sorry.
So aspects may come up, and then you would tap those down too. That makes sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. But
Okay.
I'm back to you were telling me about how it began and how it was. I think the lady Laura was her name.
Lori Layden.
Lori Lady. How do you discover tapping? Like, is this some art that went back for centuries, or?
Well, it started in California. Roger Callahan was a psychologist who lived in California. I forget what area. I think it was Southern California. And he had a practice in his house. And he was dealing with a client who had a phobia about water. And he tried every cognitive technique, and she understood what it was due to. It was a trauma earlier in life, but it was not getting better at all.
Mhm.
In fact, it was getting so bad it was hard for her to even wash her hands.
Mhm.
It just made her so uncomfortable. So he said to her, well, what does it feel like in your body when you're near water or touching water? Like, oh, my stomach, it's like super butterflies. It's actually painful at times. So he did some reading and found out that there was this one area in acupuncture under the eye that calms the stomach down. Okay, so he said, look, we've tried everything else. You want to try this? I'm not going to stick needles in you, but you want to try this? He said, yes, Dr. Callahan, anything. So I said, okay, just tap right there on that fleshy part. You can use two hands if you want, one hand, and just talk to me about what you feel, about what you understand about the water and why it bothers you. She did this for about a half hour. Just talked about it. And then she put her hand out. She said, Dr. Callahan, it's gone. He said, what? It's gone. It's gone? She says, you have a pool in your yard, Dr. Callahan. Could I just go out to test myself and see how close I can get to it? He's like, okay. So she went up to the pool, still gone. Took off her shoes, put them in the pool, said, I feel fine. Callahan, I discovered something great. So he did more research and he developed all kinds of techniques for different things. And it was kind of complicated in the beginning. And it was, he didn't call it tapping then, he called it thought field therapy. And he had many disciples. And one of them was a guy named Gary Craig. Roger died a few years back, but Gary Craig is still alive. And he streamlined the whole thing and called it Emotional Freedom Technique, which is a perfect title because it frees you of the emotions that weighed us down. And he developed those 9 spots and the setup statement that we did, even though I have this thing that bothers me. And then the balancing statement was, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And acceptance is such a big part of keeping ourselves sane, is to accept the things we cannot change and to love ourselves. So that's why he put that in. Now, a teenager would probably say, I don't want to say that. So with a younger person, I might say, well, can you say, I like myself and I'm doing the best I can? Yeah, I can say that. So something positive to balance it out.
Okay, Bob, do you mind if we take a question from the comments?
Sure.
Okay, so the young lady says, because she said that she felt better and that she did the practice with her. So I asked the question, what were you on the scale of 1 to 10 and where did you go down to? So their response was, I didn't scale it like you did. I just started to follow along and felt the pain decreasing. I'm still confused if it worked for me or if I'm distracting myself from the pain, but I felt it both times. So this has to have some truth to it.
Mm-hmm. And it is distracting yourself from the pain, because if you have people who have chronic pain, they wake up in the morning and they'll turn to someone and go, oh, my back, it's going to be today. And the amygdala goes, oh, that means you can't take that car ride. It's going to be really rough. And it already sets you up for being more miserable.
Mhm.
But if you can take that away, like if you had a friend or kind of a mom figure who would say, you've dealt with worse, you'll be fine today. It might be a little uncomfortable. You get through, and take that away, you will be feeling better.
Mhm.
So there is that, but also with the tapping, sometimes there's a psychological reason. For example, I shared with you that time someone surprised me and said, I have this terrible back pain. So I said, I'm doing a one-on-one with her in front of a group of 30 other therapists. So I said, okay, we'll talk about it. And I said, all right, just tap on this. When do you first remember hitting this? I was going to a conference and I was going to present and I was rushing and I was late and I was carrying all the stuff and my flight got canceled and I had to take. Oh, okay. So do you think it might have something to do with the pressure you were feeling? Oh, yeah. So then we tapped on the pressure she felt and the anxiety of that day and rushing around. And there was a psychological reason that the pain was still manifesting in her back.
Mhm.
And once we tapped that down, she was fine.
Mhm.
So the numbers are, it really doesn't matter. Some people say, it's an 11, Bob.
Mhm.
Okay, it's 11. As long as it comes down. Some people get worried, Bob, it went up from a 7 to an 8.
Mhm.
I said, have you been trying really hard not to think about it? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, then the first couple of rounds, you're letting it out and you've been corking it up all that time.
Mhm.
Oh, I get it now. Okay. So then you continue tapping, it almost always goes down. Sometimes it might stay at a number. I worked with one person, stayed at a number 5 for about 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden went down to a 2.
Mhm.
It just finally kicked in. So
I just have a interesting question. At least it's interesting to me. One of my favorite movies, and I'm a movie buff, is Anger Management with Adam Sandler. Have you ever seen that
I
movie?
love it. I love it.
Yes, I love, and this like technique kind of reminds me of that in a way. Is whenever they got upset, whenever they started to get angry, they start singing the song. So with tapping and with meditation, is this something where it's like every time I start to feel this, then I need to do the tapping? Is this something that I should get up every morning and do a tapping session? Like, what do you recommend is the best thing for tapping?
Well, if I was your therapist, and I'm
Mhm.
not, but I would say you have a lot of stress in your life. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of joy and wonderful things, but because you are a hardworking person, that's part of your nature,
Mhm.
you're going to feel it sometimes.
Mhm.
So I would try to carve out 15 or 20 minutes a day just to do a tapping thing on whatever you're thinking about that day. That might be, I have to remind myself to do all that stuff. I hope I get it done, you know, whatever is on your mind that day.
Mhm.
Or if there's nothing really, one thing, I just want to relax today.
Mhm.
Even though I'm not stressed about any one thing, I just want to relax my brain.
Mhm.
And I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then you cut out the beginning and the end and I just want to relax my brain today. My
Mhm.
body feels relaxed, but I want to relax my brain. My body feels relaxed. So if you do that on a regular basis,
Mhm.
it has a curative effect.
Mhm.
Now, painkillers, they work and then they go away and then the pain comes back.
Mhm.
With tapping, when you do something, it has a therapeutic effect on the brain. The brain gets used to, okay, I can handle this, I can handle this.
Mhm.
Same thing with bilateral sound. If you listen every day, it has a curing effect.
Mhm.
So when somebody says, gee, should I try some antidepressants and ask my doctor, said, try all of these things first. Then if nothing else works, as a last resort. But if you can get your body to work for you instead of against you,
Mhm.
you'll have that wherever you go.
Bob, I want to go back to something we discussed very briefly at the top of the show, and that was America's response to COVID-19. And you mentioned that people were depressed and suicidal. What have you seen? I mean, specifically, what has been your experience?
Some people are depressed because they had a lifestyle where they were with a lot of people and they needed a lot of stimulation and they loved it. And so they're having a hard time. They're depressed. Some people are on the front lines.
Mhm.
Anybody who's a service worker, anybody who's a medical field, that's highly stressful
Mhm.
because you are in danger, your colleagues are in danger, and the people you're helping are in danger of dying. And
Mhm.
so you feel all of that pressure. That is a perfect storm for PTSD
Mhm.
because someone on the front line, they're worried about their colleagues, they're responsible for the men under them or women under them. They're worried about what's going to happen, where the enemy is going to fire from.
Mhm.
So they're feeling the same kind of pressures as someone on a battlefield.
Mhm.
And if you do that for an extended period of time, it's almost automatically going to be PTSD, unless you have several breaks where you go and leave or something. And that hasn't happened. So I am worried about people. I had one client who I had seen for a while, and they were doing fine. So I, didn't see them anymore. But they were a service worker, and they called me up, and she was having almost a panic attack on the phone. And I just, all right, I want you to just breathe, and we'll tap. We'll just tap and breathe, which is what I want to show you next. Okay, I'm scared. I'm worried. I'm afraid I'll get sick. What if this? And she tapped on all the spots and said all of the things. And then we processed it, and she felt better. So I said, well, let me follow up. And we had one more session. She was fine, but she needed to get her balance again. It's just everything hit her at once and knocked her off balance.
So we're going to learn another technique.
Tap and breathe. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll give you the best examples. When I used to have to drive about 40 minutes down to Greenwich or New Haven, and I'd hit traffic every time. So I allow extra time. I would observe my students, counseling students, in action. And that was part of the mandate of the program. So I'd set up a time and date, and about half the time I'd find myself stuck in traffic. And I'm thinking, the poor student, they're been planning this, whatever it was, and they want to show off for me and show me how good they are. And then I'm going to be late, or I'm not going to make it. And so I really felt bad for them. So I would be angry at the traffic. It was my amygdala, because I couldn't do anything. Okay. So I would first start swearing. Yes, I get a temper. And then I said, well, this is ridiculous. So I'd tap on the steering wheel. Stupid traffic. Of course, before letter words, son of a gun. What the heck? What are all these people doing here in the middle of the day? Why is this traffic so? And I'd be raving like an idiot. I'd be tapping, hitting all those spots, tapping, hitting all those, son of a gun. Why the heck? Jeez. I do that for about 5, depending on how mad I was and how late I was, 5, maybe 10 minutes. And then it'd be like, nothing I can really do about it anyway. I'm stuck here. Nothing I can do. Swearing doesn't do any good. Nothing I can do. And at the end of each round, by the way, so after the last tap on the head, you take a deep breath and then start again. Stupid thing, the stupid traffic. Just son. And next time you're angry, upset, try this, because it's just the amygdala overreacting, and what you're doing is calming it down. So
okay, so I have a question. I know we're going to do the technique, but I'm just listening to you, and you're talking about traffic, you're discussing driving, and you're tapping and driving, but you're is it a therapist? I want to make sure I'm saying it correct. Okay, so that's your official title.
I'm a licensed professional counselor, LPC.
Okay, so you're a counselor.
You could also call me a psychotherapist.
Okay. Now, because this is one of those weird questions that only I probably think of, but do you get to a point where all these things don't affect you as much? Because it's just speaking to you on several occasions, you just seem very calm. You seem very mellow. You do not appear to me like someone I would assume has road rage.
No, but I do have I'm an impatient person. And so I have high expectations of myself. And so if I'm letting somebody down, that's the hardest thing for me. So when I was in my 20s, I did have a short fuse. And that was not a good thing, because at the time I was a teacher in Brooklyn. You don't want to lose it. But so a friend of mine was telling me Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, first time, this is in the 60s, he came to the US to teach meditation. He said he was going to go, and I said, well, I'll go with you. How much is it? He says, $300. Of
Mhm.
course, in the 60s, $300 was like $1,000 today. I
Right.
said, I tell you what, his name is Kenny Wallen. Kenny, look, could you just pay attention and teach me what you learned? I'll buy you lunch, a couple of lunches. And he says, sure, Bob. Okay. And because I knew I had a short fuse, never understood why, and it doesn't matter why, but I knew that meditation would help me.
Mhm.
So that's when I started practicing meditation. And I did see how it made me calmer and in control. And I remember my kids sometimes said, Dad, you seem a little upset. Maybe you want to go meditate and we'll leave you alone. And then my wife said, do not bother your father when he's meditating. Okay. So I worked at being this calm.
Okay. Okay. Good answer. Good answer. Okay, let's learn this new technique. And for everyone who's watching the show live, we're going to do this technique together. We're ready.
Okay, you want to do the tap and breathe?
Okay, we're going to do the tap and breathe.
Okay. Can you give me an instance where you're upset about something?
Um,
Gets you mad, frustrated,
I don't know.
highly disappointed.
People showing up at my door unannounced because everybody just shows up at my door, and that's, to me, is the most infuriating thing to do.
I hate it when somebody shows up at my door unannounced.
Hate it when someone shows up at my door unannounced.
Why the heck did they do that?
Why the heck do they do that?
Don't they respect my privacy?
Don't they respect my privacy?
I got a phone, they could call me.
I got a phone, they could call me.
They could email me.
They could email me.
They could even text me.
They can even text me.
What the heck's the matter with these people?
What the heck is the matter with these people?
I might be, just ready to take a shower or something.
I might be ready to take a shower or something.
I might be talking to my best friend on the phone.
I might be talking to my Jazzy on the phone.
Yeah, I might be just relaxing and not want to bother with anybody.
I might be just relaxing and not want to be bothered by anybody.
What's the matter with people?
What's the matter with people, Bob?
Deep breath. Okay.
I felt that it's like I feel a release. Like these feelings just are released and I'm just letting them go. That's good. That's
So,
good.
just for your viewers here,
Mhm.
I want to bring something up, and they can take a screenshot of that if they want. This is the tapping points. All 9. Come on, get those phones out, take a picture, and review. Don't forget to rate it first. Do your setup statement. Tap on the other points. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Rate the intensity again. Continue tapping until it goes down to a 2 or a 3. Now, I'm just going to talk about meditation quickly. If you want to look into transcendental or mindfulness meditation, it's a great skill and you don't need anything. But if you don't have the time, then you go back to the other one. I also want to, these are the things you could take a screenshot of, the tapping solution book. Unseen Therapist, he has a free book, Gary Craig. Emo Free is his site. Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics by Dan Harris. He's an ABC newscaster. And my book has explanations of all of those in there too.
Okay, let's go back, because what is a fidgety skeptic?
Well, Dan Harris had a panic attack on air. And he did a presentation. He came to Newtown and I met him. Fantastic guy. And his boss was Peter Jennings at the time. Peter said, I think you do a cover story on this meditation guy. He goes, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't do that stuff. He said, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. And he did, and it changed his life. So he wrote this book. He's the Fidgety Skeptic.
I like it. And then we have your book, and we're almost at the end of the show. So I wanted to make sure we had the opportunity to at least talk a few minutes about your book. What was the motivation behind the book? And this is a manual for trauma-informed collaboration. And if memory serves me correctly, you mentioned that this is something for people to get prepared before situations happen.
Exactly. And we learned a lot. Sharon, my co-writer, we learned a lot. She was active in the recovery movement. So was I, still active. And we thought if we could pay it forward and tell people in communities what they could do to prepare ahead of time with volunteer collaborative groups, when something happened, they would be ready for it, not just for the emergency, the FEMA people who come in, the crisis counselors, but for the long term, preparing for the long term and preventing trauma, or at least lowering the numbers on trauma. Because after a tragedy, 33% of the people are going to have a acute stress disorder. If they don't get help within the first month, it'll evolve into PTSD. And so half of those people will end up with PTSD. So that's like 16% of people who were close to the epicenter will have PTSD. So
One of the things that you focus on in your book is the mental health plan.
Because no other plans do that. And for example, most people think all therapists can do everything. When this tragedy happened, I wanted to help people, of course. I'm a therapist. And my friend Deb Devecchio Scully is a trauma specialist. And she said, Bob, don't you dare take any clients until you've learned some trauma treatments. You could do more damage than harm. Oh. So that's when I met Lori Layden. Lori, and so Deb and I went through the training with Lori. And then I met the guy who created, David Grand, who created brain spotting. I got trained in brain spotting. So I thought people need to know about this. And what really bugged Sharon and me is that a lot of people were using a traditional method that's been around for over 25 years called trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. It works for trauma, but it's not comfortable. Whereas tapping and brain spotting is slow and gentle, yet the recovery is faster. And we did some surveys in Newtown, and this is what the people told us. The therapists, we already knew that. And so I wanted to put that word out there. Look at other things.
Go ahead.
For example, I went down to teach tapping to Parkland to prepare the staff, the faculty, for the first anniversary, because that's a very stressful thing.
Yes.
And I thought it was really helpful to them, so I gave them those two techniques. What I found out when I was there, I went down also with Deb Scully, is that they had hired an organization to teach their therapists trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. And I thought, damn, if they knew about these other ones, and Lori Layden came down and started teaching it to any therapist who was interested to help out. If they'd have known what I know, it would have been so much easier. And so it's actually more fun to do this. You're doing this as an act, but when you're going through things that, let me just slow myself down. I'm trying to rush because I know I'm running over time. But remember I said when I brought up the picture of the brain?
Yes.
The frontal lobe, the cognitive part of the brain, is not working when your amygdala is taking over. And in PTSD, you're in a hypervigilant state, and trying to work from the cognitive is backwards. You have to work from the amygdala and then work up, and then you can get to the cognitive. And so trauma-focused CBT works, but it's backwards. And the new research explains that to us. So all of that stuff is in the book. And that was my drive, that I want other towns to be better prepared.
Mhm. We do have a question for you from the comments, Bob. The question is, will these methods work for just minor annoyances like traffic, uninvited guests, or can it be applied to anything more serious? With everything happening with the protests, are these appropriate exercises for dealing with rage and violent feelings?
Absolutely. Because when you're feeling rage, again, you can't think logically. So by doing some tapping exercises, then you can think, okay, well, I do want to go to the protest. I'm a little worried, but maybe I'll wear a mask or I'll stay away from large crowds. But I do want to be there. So maybe I want to be there, but I don't know if I'll put myself in danger, or so you might be feeling all of these things. And by tapping, or even with a bilateral sound, it brings down the emotional level and you can get clarity. That's the beauty of it.
So it can apply for a minor annoyance, a major frustration, rage, anger,
Yes.
whatever you're going through, you can utilize these techniques.
You can do it. But if you're still feeling a lot of rage or anger, talk to a professional, but still do that in between the sessions, because it will help you and you'll get control of yourself. But check out some of those books, because, or even you can watch Nick Ortner has some great demonstrations online. And his sister wrote another book about tapping for children. They're doing fantastic things.
Now, with meditation, I often see that there are general guided meditation, as well as specific meditations. Like you can do meditations for your love life, meditation for your finances, meditations for your career. I mean, it's all different music, it's all different frequencies that you can listen to. Do you recommend using general, specific? Do you have any like kind of rule of thumb that you advise when meditating in general?
Guided meditation sounds like what you're talking about, where someone talks to you, narration.
Yes.
So they're very helpful and they work right away. Much like bilateral sound works right away. So if you need some instant relief, you can go to UCLA's website and they have free meditations. And they even have the script form if you want to help someone else do it. So you can also find some on YouTube. And I would recommend also listening with earbuds, even though they don't do the sweeping. When the earbuds or headphones are on, it stays right in your brain. It has more of an impact. I mean, you could just listen on a speaker, but it has more impact when it's like that. So I would recommend that first, either bilateral or guided meditations. If we had time, I was going to do one. I was going to put you in Sedona, Arizona, sitting by a stream, put some pictures up, and then just talk to you and have each part of your body relax as I spoke to you. There's two very popular ones: mindfulness meditation, where you focus on your breathing. You focus on the here and now, what you're feeling, what you're smelling, what the chair you're sitting in, what it feels like. And whenever you lose your train of thought, you just go back to your breathing. Focus on the breathing. If you're breathing properly, your chest is not moving, your diaphragm is moving. So you'll see your stomach go up and down, and you'll feel it, and you feel your clothing move against it. And you get caught up in living in the moment. Depression is living in the past. Anxiety is living in the future. So mindfulness is a great way to live if you're feeling a lot of stress. Stay in the future. Stay in the present. Smell the flowers.
No, I like that. I like that. I always say magic and miracles happen in the moment. Like that's where I try to stay. And we do have another question for you from Cynthia. Cynthia would like to know, is this something you can teach children?
Yes, there are books for tapping, and I should have brought that out. There's one called, uh, you know what? Tell Cynthia, email me
Okay.
at counselor.bob@hotmail.com.
Mhm.
I'll get her the name of the book and but I've done it with first graders and kindergartners.
Mhm.
And they're squirmy little things, but you first read in the book and then it makes sense to them.
Yes, well, we'll get that to you. Now, Bob, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And at the end of every show, I love to allow my guests the opportunity to just speak directly to everyone who's watching the show live, as well as everyone who's watching in the archives, and really let them know what you want to take away from your appearance.
Great.
What would you like to tell the people, Bob?
Oh, I would like to tell people the Dalai Lama put it great. Put it well. He said, pain is unavoidable, but suffering is avoidable. I think he said it a little smoother than that. So we don't need to suffer all the time. There's things that we can do. We're suffering because our brain starts spiraling. We're looking for solutions, and maybe there are none. And we can't find them when our brain is spiraling because the frontal lobe is pushed our way by the amygdala. So if you find any of these exercises that can bring down the emotional level, then you can decide, I can fix this, can't do anything about this, I have to accept this. And I'll work on that. And then once you've decided what you can fix, what you can't fix, and know the difference, that's a big weight off your shoulder. And then what I do with the client is say, okay, these are the things you think you can fix. Let's take them one at a time. You don't have to fix them all at once. So that's
Tell
my
us,
takeaway.
I think that's wonderful. Tell us where we can find you, Bob.
You can find me on my website is Bob Schmidt, LPC.com, licensed professional counselor. And you can also see the book and more about that on disastermentalhealthplan.com, disastermentalhealthplan.com. And that's it. But if somebody wants to email me, counselor.bob@hotmail.com with a question, I'm happy to help. I'm glad that they're listening.
Yes, we're listening, we're learning, we're taking notes, we're learning new techniques, taking screenshots of your phone. Bob, this has been amazing. I think I'm calmer. I think maybe too calm because I think I need a nap now at 2:00 in the afternoon. I think it's time to lay down for a minute, but I'm calm. I feel peaceful. I feel rested. I feel like
that's good.
I didn't feel anxious when I sat down, but I feel like any anxiety or anxiousness that was there is gone. Like I've released it. I've just let it go. So that makes me feel wonderful. I want to thank you for being today's guest on Ask Sharifah Videocast.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
You are very welcome. And I definitely want to thank everyone who tuned in to the show live. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for sharing the show. I definitely appreciate it. If you want more information or if you're interested in being a guest, please visit the website at AskSharifah.com. Until the next time, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.